Imagine walking into a boutique in Milan, pulling on a Loro Piana jacket worth $35,000, and thinking, this is the height of elegance. Now imagine that same jacket was sewn by a worker paid just for euros and hours, and one who slept on a dirty mattress next to the sewing machine. This isn't some wild conspiracy. It's real. Italian courts are investigating it. And Loro Piana, the crown, jewel of quiet luxuries at
Yeah.
the center of one of fashion's darkest scandals. But what you're about to hear goes way deeper than anyone expected. Asterisk Loro Piana is what rich people wear when they don't want to look rich. It's the brand of billionaires who whisper their wealth. No giant logos, no screaming designs, just the softest vicuna wool, the rarest cashmere, and price tags that could pay your rent for a year. Owned by fashion juggernaut LVMH. Loro Piana is branded as the purest expression of Italian craftsmanship. Their jackets range from $3,000 all the way up to $35,000. A pair of loafers, $2,500. Scarves that go for $1,200. But beneath all that quiet prestige, there's something even quieter. Exploitation. Asterisk on July 14, 2025. A Milan court made a shocking announcement. Loro Piana had been placed under judicial administration for 1 full year. The reason? Allegations of severe labor exploitation. Inside its supply chain, authorities discovered that Loro Piana jackets and shoes were being produced in illegal sweatshop conditions right in Italy. The factories were owned by Chinese subcontractors, operating inside Milan's industrial outskirts, and the workers, mostly undocumented Chinese laborers, they were working up to 90 hours a week, 7 days straight, paid just €3.50 to €4 an hour. And here's the part that stunned investigators. These workers were also living inside the factories, sleeping on thin mattresses, often in the same rooms they worked in. This wasn't just a labor issue. It was a human rights violation. Asterisk one of the most disturbing reports came from a factory where a worker asked to be paid his overdue wages. Instead of getting paid, he was beaten by the factory owner so badly that he had to be hospitalized. The owner was arrested on the spot. Inspectors found cramped dormitory setups, makeshift toilets, cameras watching every corner, no fire exits, no medical support, just humans living in conditions that mirrored trafficking, not employment. And all of this was happening in a country known for luxury, culture, and artisanal pride. While influencers were unboxing Loro Piana coats on TikTok, real people were being broken behind closed doors. Asterisk, here's where it gets even more outrageous. Court documents revealed the shocking math behind these products. Each jacket was being subcontracted for just €118 to Euro 128. Let that sink in, less than the cost of a high-end hoodie. Yet those same jackets are sold in Loro Piana stores for €3,000 to €5,000, and some up to $35,000. Especially limited edition vicuna pieces. Shoes were subcontracted for under €100, then flipped at €2,000 on the retail floor. That's a markup of over 2,500%. In some cases, even 4,000%, and it was all built on the backs of people who weren't paid enough to eat properly or live safely. This wasn't a mistake. It was a system. Asterisk when the news broke, Loro Piana responded fast but carefully. In an official statement, the brand claimed it was completely unaware that these conditions existed in its supply chain. They said that as soon as they found out, May 2025, they immediately terminated their contract with the supplier responsible. On paper, that might sound like accountability, but there's a problem. Loro Piana wasn't dealing directly with those illegal sweatshops. They were working through a primary supplier who then subcontracted the work to unregistered Chinese-owned factories. Factories that had no official oversight, no inspections, and no protection for workers. And this is exactly how luxury brands protect themselves, by creating layers between the brand and the abuse. So when scandal hits, they say we didn't know. When asked about audits, they say we'll strengthen them. But what they never say is, this happened because of how we built our supply chain. Even after the Milan court ordered judicial supervision, no one at Loro Piana resigned. No executives stepped down. There were no public apologies, no compensations to the workers, just quiet damage control. And for a brand that built its image on quiet luxury, silence was the loudest response of all. Now, let's be clear, Loro Piana isn't some isolated case. In fact, it's just the latest name in a long list of luxury brands caught outsourcing their so-called Italian craftsmanship to illegal or unethical labor operations. You've probably heard the names before: Dior, Armani, Moncler, Valentino. Over the past 18 months, all of them have faced investigations either for subcontracting to unregulated workshops or for relying on undocumented migrant workers, paid far below the legal minimum. And guess what? The loophole is perfectly legal. In many cases, under Italian law, a product can still be labeled made in Italy as long as the final assembly happens on Italian soil, even if the workers stitching the seams aren't Italian, and even if the factory is owned and run by private Chinese firms that evade labor laws. So brands outsource the labor, mark up the price, and polish it all under the illusion of handmade in Italy. Behind the marketing, a fragile system of third-party subcontractors, low-wage labor, and very little oversight. This isn't just about one bad supplier. It's a widespread business model, and most consumers have no idea it even exists. Because when you're paying $5,000 for a jacket or $2,000 for shoes, you're not buying quality. You're buying the story they tell you. For years, quiet luxury has been the ultimate flex. No logos, no trends, just timeless design and the silent message. I don't need to prove I'm rich, you can feel it. And no brand embodied that better than Loro Piana. But now we know what that silence was covering. It wasn't just exclusivity or elegance, it was exploitation. Hidden workshops, sleepless workers, layers of denial, and a business built on massive profit margins that relied on keeping the people behind the scenes invisible. This isn't about choosing cheap versus expensive. It's about truth versus illusion. Because how luxurious is a product really? If the people who made it were living in factory dorms, working 13-hour shifts, terrified to speak up, we're not just talking about stitching, we're talking about values. And the reality is, you can't call something pure or crafted if the foundation is built on systemic silence and underpaid labor. And yet, most of us had no idea until now. Loro Piana was never just a fashion brand. It was a symbol of restraint, taste, and class. When you wore it, you didn't need to flash a logo. The fabric spoke for itself. The price tag whispered wealth. The message was simple. I don't need to show off, I just know better. But now we know more. Because behind that $35,000 coat is a worker sleeping on a factory floor. Behind that $2,000 pair of shoes is someone stitching seams for €4 an hour. In silence, under surveillance, inside a so-called atelier that no influencer ever filmed. This isn't just uncomfortable, it's deliberate. This was a luxury built on invisible labor, outsourced ethics, and corporate silence designed to be admired, never questioned. But maybe now is the time to start asking questions. Because what we're really paying for isn't just fabric or fit. We're paying for a story, and if that story is fake, or worse if it hides someone's suffering, then what exactly are we celebrating when we wear it? Luxury should be something beautiful, aspirational, but it should never come at the cost of someone else's dignity, someone else's sleep, someone else's freedom. And that's the hardest truth of all. If you need to exploit a worker to sell elegance, then elegance means nothing. So what can we do? We can stop pretending ignorance is innocence. We can demand brands show us not just the logo, but the labor. We can start treating transparency as a requirement, not an afterthought. And most importantly, we can stop worshiping price tags like they mean purity. Because if a $35,000 jacket is built on €4, our labor in a hidden sweatshop, then maybe the real luxury is knowing the truth in choosing better, like, comment, share. And if you're ready to pull back the curtain on more luxury myths, hit that subscribe button. This was just Loro Piana, but the industry, oh, we're only just getting started.